Hey guys, Ponce here. And yesterday, you guys may have noticed that I finally finished that whole, try every jungler in the jungler series. I made like, I don't know, 46 videos or whatever the hell it was. So it's quite a long series, and I'm pretty sure no one is going to sit through and watch all 46 videos because that's crazy. Almost as crazy as me making them. But the one question I was noticing is if I could make a quick video sort of at the end here and just maybe stick it on at the end of the playlist. Just kind of, I guess, doing an overview of the various things I found and sort of the highlights of this whole test. I did make a post about that in the PBE forums on the League of Legends website because it's a public test round. Dude, that's what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to report your findings and stuff like that to Riot and see what they think. Um, so yeah, why don't I? I'm not gonna like. I'll link to the post if you want. You can check it out in the description below, as well as the link to the full playlist where I do all the junglers. If you're curious, I'm good at um, I don't know, Olaf or something. How's Olaf? And so you can go check that out. It's in alphabetical order mostly. Um, but yeah, I'm just gonna kind of not read out what I said here, but just sort of summarize what I had to say and sort of my general findings. But for those of you guys familiar with the actual series itself and how I did things, it's going to be a bit of a repeat, but I'll do it really quickly. Basically, I started blue, and almost every single jungler I went wraiths, or not wraiths. I went blue, wolves, wraiths, or not wraiths, white wraiths, red, and double golems to keep things consistent, and usually went a very, very defensive mastery and rune setup. So runes were relatively defensive, and masteries were 921 for almost everyone, with a slight variance depending on what they needed. So before I get into very specifics, keep in mind this could change between now and release. So my findings may not be entirely relevant as to what ends up being released. For example, I don't think they're still intent on releasing runes as far as I'm aware. Season 4 runes, which has not been done. I don't know when they're doing that. That could change things up. Maybe they might rebuff some other camps. For example, I could see them buffing the EXP or gold you get from the white camp maybe a bit more because I know you can skip it and stuff and still do well on a lot of champions. But yeah, basically running from that sort of very defensive baseline, what was happening was pretty much every single jungler I tested could do the jungle without a leash, somewhere between the 3 minute and 50 second mark and the 4 minute 10 second mark. 350 was basically the fastest you got. There were a couple outliers, which I'll get to in a minute, and 410 was about as slow as you ever got, again with a few outliers. Um, so sort of what was happening was what was indicating to me is basically the fact that Smite is now faster and the defensive runes or the new defense tree mastery was so good it was just kind of letting everyone jungle that I tried mostly. I mean, obviously, very stupid things still won't work. Like uh, I don't know, Morgana probably wouldn't work. I don't know. Just basically, a lot of AD carries probably wouldn't be able to really do it, not realistically. But then what I was finding as I kept doing more and more is that basically what it seemed to do is while it was easier for crappier jungles to at least sort of get through it, and there was sort of a baseline that they could default to, and it was sort of like you're not going to jungle too much slower than this. What I was noticing was a lot of the really good junglers, like the ones that had pretty good tankiness, good single target, and good AOE, would have been able to basically spec significantly more offensively, and start things like 21, 9, 0, and then maybe put a bit more offensive master or runes than I had into their kit. And then that would actually push them above sort of the baseline average clear speed. It would put them sort of into their own category, which seems to work well with the fact that the jungle now gives you more gold. So it's sort of creating this potential for the carry jungle, I guess, more so than in previous seasons. Like those two things seem to work together fairly well. Especially when kind of I recall there was a post a long time ago about the season 4 mastery changes, which was saying basically if you're deep invested into a tree, that's like what your ultimate kind of goal is for the game. It's more about your late game than it is in season 4 or season 3. The first 9 points in a tree are more so about doing stuff early. So 9 points in defense allows you to do the jungle early, and then the 21 lets you or it pushes you towards more of that sort of carry damage type role later on. So examples of this would be like I guess Olaf technically had the option. Here's a weird case. Shyvana was sort of a middle of the road sort of case. For example, like you're probably better off going defensively, although you certainly could go offensively on Shyvana. I've seen it done before. But defensively, she clears really fast. If you put offensive runes on her, she'd probably clear slightly faster. Udyr is probably a better case where you have the option of going offensively if you really want to. He works defensively too, though. So there was that. Um, the other class of jungler who could do something similar was champions that have just sort of very good innate sustain, like Aatrox, um, what's his name, Trundle, Warwick. They all cleared the jungle like very healthy. So champions like that could spec more offensively if they wanted to, and then just kind of push their farm speed up beyond this kind of baseline. We're not that great at jungle, but we can do jungle sort of speed line or speed category. Um, by what I mean by that slower category is basically pretty much any of the tanky AP junglers. If you play any of those cleared around the 4 minute mark somewhere, very close to it. And I also mentioned outliers, people who are faster than 350. Just even with the defensive runes, that would have been like, yeah, I've already mentioned, but Olaf, Shyvana, Udyr, things that were slower than the 410 mark, where it's what you would expect basically. For example, like Warwick, Shen, and when I did Anivia, technically, that was kind of a very silly video, but she was very slow. I think actually Shen and Anivia were about the same speed, although Anivia almost dies in the jungle, where Shen doesn't use a single pot. Shen is another example where he might have used one, but he could have gone offensively, but then you're offensive Shen, which seems kind of silly. But you certainly have that option there. The other thing was, of course, depending on your champion, you could very easily, and you should change up the jungle route. For example, champions with very good single target can basically, instead of going blue wolves, they could have very easily gone blue white and then just smite the wolf or the big wolf instead. And of course, if you had a leash, pretty much I think most people could go white and not take too much damage without smiting it. Most of the junglers I did go wolves just because the white would deal you so much damage if they weren't too good at jungling and didn't have a smite available to kill it. But that's the other thing you have to consider. With a leash, that probably increases sort of the range of champions that can go the offensive Rune and Mastery spec route, because I was taking so much damage on the initial, on some champions, so much damage on the initial blue thing, the first camp, without the leash, because the leash helps quite a bit. People don't realize, and even if it's just a few auto attacks, it's quite nice to get that extra bit of damage. So I mean, if you're taking less damage, and in theory, yeah, probably a lot more of the junglers I tested could viably go the offensive route. But yeah, that's really all I have to say on the matter. I guess it's a bit hard to sort of see where this goes doing just one initial jungle clear on everyone. You can sort of extrapolate from there, see how things may continue on. But I did also do a large number of like full games on the public test realm, just playing different junglers. So a more kind of realistic gameplay scenario. I was actually doing that on stream if any of you guys caught that. And I think there is one video somewhere in there in the playlist, somewhere near the middle, where I'm playing Shyvana for a full game. And I think that was it wasn't the most extreme example I had, but it was one of the more extreme examples I had of me just purely farming and not actually getting that many ganks and kills and stuff. While the other guy tried to gank a lot and wasn't quite successful with it. So I was getting a lot of farm gold, and I was like way ahead in levels and way ahead in items as a jungler compared to another jungler. I don't really recall it happening too much in season 3. So that was quite interesting to see that sort of bear out. I mean, it was a fairly extreme example. I was on Shyvana, who seems to be sort of like the farm queen. So that's actually, I do enjoy playing Shyvana, or at least I can see myself enjoying playing Shyvana in season 4, because I've always kind of preferred the option of being able to fast clear your jungle and just kind of carry that way. So that was quite nice. Um, but I think the most extreme example of out leveling and incoming the gold incoming the the opponent jungler. Having one game where I think it was actually Shyvana again. Or it could have been someone else. Maybe I was Hecarim. But yeah, at one point they had an Udyr who wasn't farming very well. He was trying to gank a lot, but he wasn't very successful with it. And I was, I think, two full items and like two levels above him by somewhere around the level 13 mark. I don't remember where exactly it was in the game, but it was like somewhere mid game, and that was pretty extreme. So that was very nice to see. So yeah, just to kind of summarize, it sort of seems like the new mastery tree or the defensive tree and the better smite, or at least the faster smite, is allowing kind of very weird things to jungle, and the speed doesn't vary too much in this sort of very defensive kind of tanky setup, but it allows for basically you use that as a very baseline sort of clear speed. That's there, and you can do it at that speed if you want. But if you really want to take advantage of the new jungle and be able to just zip through it and then occasionally gank, then yeah, it's the faster, like supposed, well, the good junglers that can really take advantage of that, depending on your spec and stuff like that. So there you have it. Those are my thoughts and sort of overview, just to put a cap on the other 46 videos or whatever the hell it is in this playlist. Hopefully that was informative. If you guys have any questions, I'll try to answer them. I get a lot of comments, so I can't always get around to all of them. But yeah, I'll see you guys around, and hopefully that answered all the questions. Goodbye.